In our previous section, we already know that there is a value or a single value that could represent the whole population. If we choose the value of population that is measured by all the population data, then it is called the parameter. And when the value of population is measured by sample data, it is called a statistic. And also we also learn that we are more interested in statistic, so we assess the population by using the data sample. So in this session or in this section, this is the hypothesis. Then the hypothesis testing definition, where we will discuss the definition of the hypothesis, and of course this session is concerned with the statistical hypothesis testing. So by mention statistical, of course, we are concerned about sample. Then, in order to know about the hypothesis, the definition of the hypothesis, let's see some of these following statements. Maybe you often hear or read on newspaper or magazine or in your smartphone someone say about like this. Oh, the average speed of cars in the HR Bunyamin Street is 50 kilometers per hour. Or something like, did you know most of Marvel movies are rated above 8 in IMDb movie rating? Or this. Can you imagine the average fresh graduate salary who works in the startup business? It is called almost 10 million rupiahs. All of these three are statements. It is a claim about something or a claim about the value of population. For example, according to someone, your friends maybe, the population value or mean value of all cars that pass through the Bunyamin Street is 60 km per hour. Or according to your friends, that the population or mean value of all Marvel movies rating on IMDb is above 8. Or maybe according to a newspaper, the population value or mean value of all fresh graduate salary in startup business is 10 million rupiah. So all of these are statements. They try to reflect the population. So the question is, all of these three statements are hypotheses because they try to reflect the characteristic of the population. Do you agree that these three statements are a hypothesis? Let's see. By definition, hypothesis is not only a statement, but hypothesis is a statement about the value of population parameters. For example, it's a population mean or the average mean. That's subject to verification. You have to underline the last four words, that subject to verification. So a statement is called hypothesis when it is subject to verification. Okay, if this is if any statement that not subject to verification, just the statement is only a statement, not a hypothesis. This is the definition of the hypothesis. Okay, as we know by the definition of hypothesis, it is a statement that's subject to verification. So when you see or heard someone state that The average fresh graduate salary, for example, who works in Lukabapak app business is 10 million rupiahs. And if you interested to test the validity of the statement, what will you do then? You probably will go to the Lukabapak office and ask one of the employee and ask the how much the salary they receive in the end of the month. And by doing this, you are trying to test the validity of the statement. So by doing this, you also testing the hypothesis. Then by the example, the definition of hypothesis testing is a procedure based on sample evidence and probability theory to determine whether the hypothesis is a reasonable statement. We know that the hypothesis testing is a procedure. There are 5 steps that are commonly used in order to test the hypothesis. The first step is to state the hypothesis that we want to being tested. It is called the hypothesis statement. There are 2 hypothesis statements. Number one is the null hypothesis, and the second one is the alternate hypothesis. After setting up the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis, we select the level of significance, and then after that we select the test statistics. There are many test statistics. However, in this chapter or in this session about the step of about the hypothesis testing, we will use only 2 test statistics. There are Z statistic and T statistic. And then next step is formulating the decision rule. In what condition we reject our hypothesis. In this step, we use a probability distribution theory of sampling to determine the condition when we reject our null hypothesis, or when we not reject our null hypothesis. And then last step is we have to collect the data and then make a decision whether to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis. We will study more detailed about the hypothesis test in our next meeting. Okay, I think that's all about the definition of hypothesis and hypothesis testing. We are a little bit move further by mentioning some 5 procedures in conducting the hypothesis test. However, we will discuss our 5 procedures in conducting hypothesis test in our next meeting next week. Okay, hope you enjoy these materials, and see you in the next meeting. So bye.